Hey, welcome into the Shopfix channel, a community joined together for the love of woodworking. In this episode, I want to show you how you can utilize SketchUp to plan out your next woodworking projects. If you're brand new to SketchUp, I'm going to show you some of the beginning tools that you'll need to utilize to create these plans. In the process of designing this farmhouse coffee table in real time with you, I'll be able to share some tips and tricks. Let's get right into this. Shopfix. It's for the love of woodworking. Alright, so to begin here, we're going to want to go to File, New from Template, and you're going to want to click Woodworking. And I would definitely work in inches. If you're in the US, that's going to be a lot easier. If you accidentally do millimeters, it gets a little confusing. So I'm going to click Woodworking. Okay, so when you first open up SketchUp Pro, it might be a little disorientating because, this is a new way of looking at projects and it's in a 3D model. Now, you see this dotted blue line going down? That's basically underground. So anything built under here, this is underground. The ground is these solid red lines and the solid green lines. So this is basically the floor right here. And you kind of can imagine that. And then the blue line is just the height. So you don't have to worry about this over here. You won't really be building over there hardly at all. You kind of build in this quadrant right here. Especially for woodworking. We don't really build a lot of things underground. Now, the first thing you're going to want to do is open up your tool palette. So you're going to go to View, Tool Palettes, and you want the large tool set. That's going to make it a lot easier to build. Now, there are a lot of key commands, and I'm going to be going through those while we build so that you can learn those. All right, so before we use our tool palette to build out this coffee table, I wanted to mention that the way that you view everything in SketchUp Pro is actually fairly simple. However, you're going to want to use a mouse that has a wheel at the top. So the two buttons left and right, and then a wheel in the middle. And if you don't, it makes it a lot harder to zoom in and pan. So the pan function, you simply click on the wheel, and then it's going to let you go any direction. So down, up, and side to side. And all I'm doing is I'm holding down the wheel in the middle, and then I can move my mouse, and that's how I view everything. Now, if I want to zoom in or out, all I have to do is roll the wheel. So if I roll the wheel back, I zoom out. And if I roll the wheel forward, I zoom in. And if you don't have the wheel mouse, this makes this incredibly difficult. There's a lot of different buttons you have to press on the keyboard while pressing the buttons on a mouse. So if you're on a Mac, I would recommend buying a mouse with the wheel. And they have wireless, wired. They're fairly cheap, so I would definitely recommend doing that. Learning the keys, it's going to be much more difficult, and the wheel makes all the difference. All right, so now it's time to start designing the coffee table. Now, the first thing we're going to want to do is to figure out where we're going to actually start building this coffee table. Now, a lot of people just start at the origin. I don't really like doing this because your project is really smushed in between these access lines. So what I like doing is I like bringing out the origin point somewhere over here. And to do that, I simply drag out with the line tool. And again, that's the pencil up here on their tool palette. Usually you have the selector. If you click the pencil line, you get the line tool. Or you can simply use the shortcut, which I use, which is L. So you just have to push L on the keyboard and you get the line tool. Now, I'm going to be going on the axis so I know that it's level to the ground. And then I'm going to bring it out here, and I'm going to bring it out about here with the green axis. So it's kind of out here, and that's where we're going to start the project. I kind of like that a little bit better. So now we need to get our base for our coffee table. And honestly, for any project that you're doing, I would recommend making a base. So whatever the footprint of your project is, you're going to want to establish that because you might have to reference the base for some kind of measurements or adding pieces on. And if you don't have a base, it's very hard for the program to automatically know where your outside perimeter is. So what we're going to do is you can drag out and lock onto the axis, and then you're going to type 3 foot. And you can see in the bottom right hand corner it says 3 foot. And all you have to do is press enter, and that's going to get our length. Now for our width, we're just going to drag, snap to the green axis, and we're going to do 2 feet and click enter. And then usually it intuitively knows where the points are, so you can simply let it snap to that. And now we got our footprint. So this is our footprint to our coffee table. Okay, so now that we have the length, which is 3 foot, and the depth, which is 2 foot, now we need to establish the height of the project. And we're going to be using the push-pull tool. And you can simply click here, or you can click P for the tool. That's the shortcut. Now, to do this, you have to click on the surface, and then while you're clicking, you can drag up or down. So if I click it and drag down, that's going to pull the whole thing downwards. And if I pull it up, it's going to pull the whole face upwards. While still holding on to the left button of the mouse, that's when you can drag it up and down. As soon as you release the button, it leaves it where it is, okay? After you release the button, so I'm not holding the mouse at all right now, what you can do is you can type in a specific measurement. So we're going to type in 20, and I'm going to press enter, and that's going to automatically make that cube 20 inches in height. What we have now is the footprint of the coffee table. So everything pretty much is going to be around or in this cube. All right, so before we put anything else on this coffee table, I'm going to show you how to use the eraser tool. So you can click on the eraser, and then what you can do is these lines I don't really need anymore. They won't serve any purpose. So I can simply go ahead and erase those. All right, so that's how you use the eraser. Now to get back to your pointer, basically all you have to do is press the spacebar on the keyboard, and now you can select things again. All right, so now we're going to start designing the sides for the top of this coffee table, and they're actually made out of 2x4s. So we're going to get our line tool. Basically, the top 2x4s encase the top boards of the coffee table. With our line tool, we simply have to click at the end point, and then we're going to drag down 2 inches. So again, start the line. So to get an exact measurement, I release all the buttons on the mouse, then I go to my keyboard, I click 2, and then enter, and that makes it exactly 2 inches. And so that's our midpoint, and then that's our measurement. Now I need to go all the way around this cube, and it should be intuitive enough to know exactly where to snap on that line. So I don't really have to make any other measurements, because see, it intuitively knows if I snap on the axis that it knows that I'm trying to get 2 inches all the way around. Okay, so that's what we're gonna do. Make sure it's on the axis when it lights up, and make sure you click on all of those edges. Okay, so since we're going to be doing 45-degree miters at the corners for these top boards, we're going to have to get our protractor tool, and that's going to be this guy right here. So I'm going to click that, and all we have to do is make sure our protractor, see that if it's green, the protractor is on the green axis. We want it on the top of the surface. All right, and then we're going to click on the edge of our top, and then that way our protractor can drag out. Now we want 45 degrees. So I'm just going to click 45 on my keyboard and then press enter. And that's going to give us our 45-degree angle. Now I'm just going to repeat that on all 4 corners. So 45. Okay, so now you can see we have 45 degrees marked on these corners here. And that's going to be important to measure out the next part of our project. So we're going to take our line tool, so that would be L. We are going to go out from the edge. I'm going to actually cut these 2x4s to 1 3/8 thickness and do 1.375 and then enter. And it's just easier to type in that way, I think. All right, so I click escape to end that line. Now, all we have to do is go from the end point, and you can see right here, it's on the top, out, and that line right here is basically the thickness. And we're actually using the line tool here as a measurement. And I actually do that a lot in SketchUp Pro. I actually use the line tool to actually mark a measurement so I have something to reference on. Because I can't reference right here on this line, I can't reference how far I need to go for 1 3/8. But if I just measure a line here and then erase it later, it works perfectly. So I had this reference point, and so now I can just click it. And now since I have the thickness measured and I have the 45-degree measurement, look, it already knows what I want to do. So just from the end here to the 45-degree line. And then I'm just going to do that all the way around. And again, the program already intuitively knows what you're trying to do based on the measurements you have and the axis you're going on. Okay, so I'm going to go all the way around here. Again, using the pan tool to pan around while I'm using the line tool. I just click the scroll at the top, scroll around, and make sure you click all the lines. Now I'm going to press escape to escape out of that. And then I'm going to get the erase tool because we need to erase this half line right here and then this line because it was just a measurement. So we're going to get rid of that and then click L for our line tool again and then finish off that top. Okay, so that's what the top is going to essentially look like. But there's a few other things that we need to do to get this right. So to make these 3D, so right now the 2x4s are basically just a 2D model, and we're going to need to make this 3D. So to do that, we're going to do our push-pull tool, which is P, and then we're going to push this whole thing down, and again, you just click it, drag it down, and then release the mouse, and then you can type in how far down you want to go. And we want to go down 2 inches. Okay, there we go. And now we have, that's basically going to be the top edge of our coffee table right there. All right, so now we're going to use our selector. We're going to select the middle of this coffee table and we're just going to delete it. We don't need that right now. So now we're left with this. The next thing we're going to do is we are going to create the rabbited edge on these 2x4s for the top boards to go into. We're going to measure from the edge, go out, make sure the line is on the axis, not like this. See, it turns black when it's not, but it turns green when it's on the axis. So you're going to want to make sure you remember that. Now we're going to go out 5/8. And like I said, I don't really work with fractions. I just do 5 divided by 8, which is 0.625. So I'm just going to type in 0.625 and enter. All right, so now we have this line. Now that's our rabbited edge. So we're going to have a rabbet 5/8 and then 5/8 deep. So because our boards for the top are going to be 5/8 in thickness. So it just gives it a nice measurement. So this is going to have to go all the way around and then on that line. So we're going to go all the way around because the rabbet cut has to go all the way around. Or it's like a relief cut or there's a couple names for it. I usually just call it a rabbet. All right, then we're going to get the erase tool and erase that line that we used as a measurement. All right, so now we need to push-pull the inside down 5/8, and that's going to get a rabbited edge. So you can see here that it's highlighting that whole inside edge, and we simply have to drag it down just a little bit, and then all we have to do is type 0.625, which is 5/8, and there we go. So there is our rabbited edge that all the top boards are going to sit into. So now that we have that, we don't really have any use for the 45-degree measurements anymore. So we're just going to go ahead and use our eraser tool and just get these out of here because they're just for reference. Okay, so since all these boards are actually different boards and they're not going to meet perfectly like that, we're going to create our seam here to more accurately represent what it's going to look like. All right, so now we have the 2x4s all the way around the top completed. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to click the space bar and I'm going to select all these faces and just get rid of them. Okay, and the bottom one. All right, so now we're left with this. Now, what I would do here is I would go ahead and triple click. So if you double click, you click the face, but if you triple click, you click all of everything touching one another. And we're going to make this a component by clicking this, which is the little blue grid, and click that. And we're just going to name this top frame. Okay. And now what you can do with this is if you want this, just this view right here selected and nothing else, well, what you could do is you could click M, which is the move tool, and then you can click option, and that's going to make you able to copy it. So we're going to copy this and just put it over here to the side. And then we can use this as a reference, or maybe you screw this up and you want to go back to this stage. Either way, it's kind of useful. All right, so now that we have this as a component, so if you go to your select tool or spacebar and click it, you'll notice that this whole thing is now a component and not different pieces. And so we have a copy of the component over here, and then we have this as a component. And what that's going to enable us to do is to build things off from it without affecting this structure. Okay, so now we're going to move on to creating the 2x4 legs, and we'll just start right here. And we're just going to get our line tool, which is L. We're going to measure over 3 inches because that's how wide I want these 2x4s. And I'm just going to cut the 2x4 at 3 inches wide. So I'm going to click 3 and then enter. And then from that endpoint, I'm just going to go up and we're going to make the 2x4 go all the way up to the edge of our rabbited edge. So then click that, and then I'm going to click over, and then I'm going to go down along this edge, and then that's going to create a 2D face for that 2x4. And now to make it 3D, all we have to do is use the push-pull tool, which is P, click the face, drag it out, so 1.375, enter. And now we have our 2x4 leg, and we just simply repeat that process 3 more times. So all we got to do is click line tool, go over 3 inches, enter, and then P for push-pull tool. All right, so now that we have the 2x4s at the top and then the 2x4s coming down, we're going to go ahead and create the shelf that's going to be towards the bottom. We're going to get our line tool here, and I'm going to be going up 3 inches from the bottom. So again, I'm going to be using the line tool here as a measurement. Basically, it's just easier that way for me. So I'm just going to go up. I'm going to click 3 inches and then enter, and then drag the pencil up, and it's going to find the midpoint of the line I just made, and it's also going to find the end point of the line I just made. And I think that's a really easy way to find where you want to come off from. So then I just click that endpoint, and I'm going to go across the axis all the way across, just like that. Now, this is going to be another 2x4 that's cut at 3 inches width. So we already know what the width is, but we need to get the thickness. So all we have to do is drag our pencil line up this axis, and then we're going to click 1.375 again. So 1.375 is going to be 1 3/8, and that's the thickness of all my 2x4s. So 1.375 and then enter. And then I'm going to go from that point, which is right here, over. Now we have the side of our 2x4. Now to complete this, all I simply have to do is take the push-pull tool, push it, and then click 3 and enter. And so now we have one of our base pieces on. All right, we're going to go ahead and create the other 2x4 side piece over here in the exact same manner. So I'm simply going to use my line tool, which is L. I'm going to go up 3 inches, zoom out a little bit, and then I'm going to go from that endpoint over, and then up 1.375, and then I'm going to go over. Just snap to the axis and the edge, and you got it. Then P for push-pull, and then push it, release the mouse, and click 3, and then you got the other board. All right, so now we need to create the 2x4s that are going to go this way. So to do that, instead of measuring all that out again, I can simply kind of zoom in here, click this edge, go over to the edge that I want to reference, and it'll already kind of transfer that measurement onto that edge. Then I'll click that, And then now I can zoom out and then just snap right here. And that's going to give me that line automatically, basically. And then the same thing here. Look, it already knows exactly what I want to do because it's referencing another point. So I'm just going to utilize that. And then again there. And then I'm going to use the push-pull tool to push it 3 inches. There we go. And then I'm just going to repeat that on the other side. So line tool, zoom in, reference that point, go over, let it snap, and then down, let it snap, and then over, let it snap, push-pull, 3 inches. All right, so now we have our baseboards. Now, the only thing we need to do here is to create another rabbited edge for the boards. So the boards are sitting in the top right here. It's going to sit in this rabbited edge. All the boards are going to go across and kind of sit in here. And I'm going to do the same thing at the bottom, but it is going to be a little bit different. So I'll show you what I'm going to do. I'm going to create a line from the edge of the 2x4 that's going up and all the way across. And I'm going to do that on this side as well. And then we're going to get our push-pull tool, and we're just going to push this down 5/8, which is 0.625. And I'm going to do the same thing right here, 0.625. And that gives us just a nice 5/8 rabbet to lay our boards across. All right, so now that we have this structure, we're going to go ahead and click it all. So I'm going to triple click. Whoops. So triple click. All right. Now that component right there is our base. So that's our legs and our base. So we're going to make that a component. So now we're going to go over here for the blue grid, and we're going to call this base and create that. All right. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to create our X's. And those are going to go across right here. All right, so we're going to go up from the edge here, and we're going to go to 1 3/8. All right. And then we're going to go over to the intersection right here because we want it to stop where we can see it. And we're going to go down 1 3/8, just like that, and then down to the corner here. Okay, now we're going to use our push-pull tool to push that 1.375, and there's our first X. Now we're going to be creating our next X right on the edge of that one. So we're going to go inside here, and this one's going to go the other way. Okay, however, we need to make this match up. So first we're going to do a line, and we're going to go from here, and we're going to go over 1.375. And you can see it's not quite to the edge here. And that's why we had to do this measurement here. And I'm just going to go up all the way to the top. And I'm going to go over from here to here. And we know that right there is our intersection. Okay, so now that we have these lines, and again, these are just like measurement lines, and we're going to go over from this point 1.375, and then this point should snap to the grid. Midpoint in base. No. I don't, there it is. Oh. On edge. Yeah, see? So it finally figured out what we're trying to do. I'm trying to get it on the edge because those pieces are going to be together. All right, now we can go over 1.375, which there, now it's figuring out what we're doing. So on the edge, and then go up to here, and then go down. There we go. Okay. And then we're going to go to our eraser, erase this point, get our line tool. And now we can go up from here. There we go. And go up to there. Now we have it. All right, we'll erase everything else. That was a little tricky. There might be an easier way to do it, but it's just because the measurement didn't land right on the edge of this board. And so we kind of had to float it in there. And sometimes that's tricky when you have to float a piece inside another piece like this. Sometimes that can be hard. So now that we have that right though, it's the perfect X. Now we can go ahead and push pull it 1.375 and it should match right on the edge of that board. Yeah, there we go. All right, so let's take a look at how that looks. There we go. So I'm gonna click on our X pieces and you need a triple click. So triple click and you get the whole X. Then I'm gonna go to component and call this X. Then you simply have to click the M for move tool. Then you're gonna click option key and that's gonna make it copy. You can see the little plus. When I push it, I make sure it stays on the red axis, okay? Now, I need to orientate my screen differently to make this measurement go in right. So I'm gonna orientate my screen differently. I'm gonna re-click it and I'm just gonna move it on the red axis. And if it moves off, you can always put it back on, okay? Now I'm gonna get it as close as I can by looking at it. Okay, that looks good. Now I'm gonna release. I'm gonna zoom in here. And if it's not perfect, I can always get it more perfect. But I'd say that's pretty perfect. And then we can zoom out. And now we have our X's in place. And now what you can do is you can click on selector. You can click the X's. See how it clicks both X's. And then now I could do component. And I could call this X times 2. Or X's actually. I'll just call it X's. All right, there we go. Now we have that component. All right, so let me show you how these components work now that they're all done. So I can simply get the move tool, which is M, and then I can move out the different components. So this is what we did with the top. Okay, so if I wanted a new top, I can simply move that out and build a new one. Maybe I want to see what it looks like without the X's, so I can simply move out the X's, see how it looks, and then move them back in by just undoing my action. Or maybe I want to see if I want to create a new base, I can just move the base out. So that's a really easy way to modify the coffee table if you don't like the design and you want to try different designs out. That's basically what the component tool is supposed to do. So we're going to go ahead and delete this guy since we know that we like the design. All right, so now that we have this all done, I kind of want to make a model of just that in case I want to play around with it. So I'm going to select all of this by highlighting all of it. Hold on, let me do that again. Get it all. All right, now that selects everything. And now I'm going to make this a component and I'm just going to make this main build. Okay. And now what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to move this. I'm going to click option and I'm going to copy this because this is basically the main build. The slats on the top to make the top and the shelf are fairly simple. This is what I want to see, the underneath side. So we got that copied. Now I want to keep this as a full component, but I want to explode this. So by explode is basically you make different components again. So I'm going to go spacebar, I'm going to click this and I'm going to just click explode. All right. Now that should make it to where all my individual pieces are left intact. And they are. All right. And then this should be one full. Okay. There we go. So now if I build the slats onto here, well, I could just reference this as the main structure to get my measurements. So on here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my rectangle tool, R. I'm going to drag from the inside corner from here. I'm going to go, and then I'm going to go to the other side corner. Right here. Okay. And then basically I'm going to drag that up, push, pull, and I'm going to push it up 5/8. 0.625. And there we go. Now, obviously it's not going to be one sheet like that. It's going to be slats. So then next, all we got to do is I'm going to take my dimension tool I'm going to measure from this point to this point. And so that is 25.25. All right, so the left side, after doing measurements, is going to have to be 37.25 long, comma, 3.0625, which is 3 1/16. And so there we go. And then the next one is going to have to be 37.25 in length, comma, and this one's going to be 3.1875, which is 3 3/16. And it shouldn't be noticeable when you look at it, but it was necessary to make up for the kind of the odd number. And let's just double check that. We'll measure it and make sure that this measurement right here is 3.0625 width. Yep, 3 1/16. And then all these are 3 3/16. All right, so we got that done. Now we need to do the bottom. I'm going to go ahead and triple click this top, and I'm going to make it a component, and I'm going to call it top. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and hide this. So you can right click and click hide. And so that's going to allow me to create the bottom without having to try to view through there. Okay, so now the bottom, I'm going to be going the opposite direction. All right, so we're going to do something similar as we did at the top, which is create a rectangle here. And then I'm going to use the push-pull tool to push it up 5/8. All right, so now what we have to do is to create our slats. And I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, they're even. So I'm going to use my dimension tool from that point to this point. And yeah, we get a nice even 30. So if we make all the boards 3 inches wide, then all we need is 10 boards. I need to do one more measurement here, which would be from this point to this point. Okay, so it's 21.25. So we'll take our rectangle tool, we'll type in 21.25, comma, 3. All right, so I'm going to take the rectangle tool and I'm going to create 9 more of these. So here we go, 21.25-3. All right, there we go. And so now we're going to triple click to select all, and I'm going to make this a component, and I'm going to call this bottom. And then what we need to do is we need to go to edit and then click unhide and just do all. And that gives that piece back. All right, so there we have it. And so now what you can do is you can take your dimension tool, and I can put all the measurements on here. One cool thing you can do is you can actually get angles. So I can take my protractor tool and I can select here and I can see what that angle is. So that angle is 30 degrees. So I can click there. And so now I know that when I go to cut this board out, that all I have to do is cut a 30-degree angle. So that's really cool that you can put that in there. And then you can annotate it. So I can click on this dotted line and I can just say 30 degrees. Well, I really hope you enjoyed this SketchUp tutorial. If you found this helpful, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe to the Shopfix channel. If you have a question about a specific tool that I used in this video or an action I took to create this coffee table in the program and you're kind of wanting some clarification, just message me in the comments below and I'll definitely get back to you as soon as I can. Well, that's it, but I really hope you enjoyed this Farmhouse coffee table build. Take care.